Jar of Flies came out, Jesus Christ, almost 30 years ago. As of tomorrow, not today, but tomorrow, January 25th, 1994. The third studio EP by American rock band Alice in Chains through Columbia Records. And the first EP in music history to debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. Holy shit. I didn't know that. It is the first EP in music history to debut at number 1. So let's get into it. We're going to be listening through and reviewing the entirety of Jar of Flies. Got some music pulled up here so I can try to play along, try to learn these songs. Oh, no, not that. Let's go. First song, Rotten Apple, Jar of Flies, Alice in Chains. I think the most impressive thing about this is how you have a grunge album that's very muddy and dark and loud and aggressive and an assault on your senses. But underneath all of that, you have a very melancholic, lovely progression. I think just the way the bass expands in this song and all the low end, the way all the low end expands in this song, the way it just kind of flows throughout is very, just so full and so clear. And we really get kind of stuck in this alternating 2-chord pattern, D sharp minor 7 to C sharp major. We're there for quite a while throughout the song. Whenever the verse progression returns, we're in it for quite a while. And I think the fact that we spend so much time inside of that 2-chord progression is, it really kind of adds to the release that comes with the chorus. When we go into from a D sharp minor 7 into a D sharp major, and then a B major 9. Very cool. So it goes like this. This is the transition. Very jazzy chord in there. That B major 9. What I see is unreal. Written down by. Eat the apple so young. Crying back to the start. That's pretty much the whole song. But I don't even get tired of it. There's so much to listen to in the mix. It's so active and so diverse between the lick between the lick that the guitar is doing, and or I guess maybe it's a bass, or it's either a bass or a guitar just really, really down low on the frets. God, such a strong song, such a strong opening to an album. It really gives you such a wonderful kind of example of what's to come. It's a really great. I think it's just a really great exemplifier of the entire album, of the sound of the entire album. And like, if you're not familiar with an Alice in Chains album in general, you could listen to this album, put this on, you can decide pretty much immediately if it's the type of music that you're gonna like or dislike. And I think that in terms of the very basic chord progression, I mean, there are only 4 chords in this entire song, but the fact that it's very basic and simple musically lends itself to kind of feeling more like an opening track. It really feels more like a prologue or an intro. Whereas you have, in terms of chord progression, songs that are a bit more complex. Not super complex. I mean, we're still talking about grunge here. But I'm going to give this song, Rotten Apple, and this is one of the Alice in Chains songs I've not been very familiar with throughout my life. This is one I haven't listened to as much. So I was kind of coming at it from a fresh angle this time around. But I'm going to give this song a 4.5 out of 5. Just incredible, just incredible. That chorus, the chorus, oh my God. I was jamming on some, what's it called? Real Folk Blues from the Cowboy Bebop original soundtrack. And that right there, this B7 with a sustained 9th, or I guess the 9 would technically be up here. How the fuck am I supposed to reach that? I can't even reach that, so I just sustain the 2, or sustain the 9 as a 2 in the middle of the chord. What I see is unreal. Written my own part. Eat the apple so young. Crawling back to the start. And then transitioning out of the chorus and back into the verse. It's a pretty easy transition, even though you're modulating what would be kind of like a brutal or uncomfortable swap from the major of the chorus to the minor 7 of the verse. I think the fact that it's a minor 7 really adds to the ease of the transition. Beautiful, beautiful song. This goddamn B9 chord. God, listen to that. That is gorgeous. Especially when it's punctuated in contrast to the D sharp major. You have the D sharp major is just such a very straightforward, heavy rock sound. Very grungy, very straightforward, easy to interpret on the ears. Oh, I forgot to update the donation scroll at the top. Thanks again for the sub from Wolfgang Collins. Going to bring the total up to $61.32 donated. Excellent, excellent. My God, yeah, I don't know. I want to say this is maybe one of my favorite chords I've ever heard. Specifically when it's contrasted against the D sharp major. Ah, it's beautiful. It's so gorgeous. How often do you come across a song that's this heavy and this loud and this fucking in your face, but also has this gorgeous jazzy B9 chord in it? That is Rotten Apple, the first track off of Jar of Flies. Let's keep things moving along. The next track is one I am a lot more familiar with, and that is going to be Nutshell. We are celebrating the 29th birthday of release of Jar of Flies by Alice in Chains. T.tv/nice teal, baby. Nutshell off of Jar of Flies, track 2. Quite a big, emotional, and musical step away from the first track, Rotten Apple, in terms of energy. But we're still, and it's interesting, we're actually still hanging around the same chords. We've still got a B add 9, or actually I should start with the main chords. Although this time we're missing that very jazzy 7th, B7, with a Rotten Apple. We have this very beautiful jazzy B7 add 9 chord, but now it's just a B add 9. There's no 7, so it's a lot more. It's a bit I don't know, a bit prettier, lighter. Not quite as soulful though. It's a bit more straightforward, and I think that really lends itself to the more sad, kind of reclusive, emotional nature of this song. And that's really it. That is the progression for the entire track. This is a really wonderful example of how you can have two songs that are quite literally the exact same chords, but flipped around with different order, different energy, different progression. They're the same. It's the same chords. But it also really lends itself to the cohesiveness of the album. That you have this opening track that's so loud and big and almost anthemic that goes into a second track that is the same. Musically, it is the same. But it's the emotion behind it is so much more raw and tragic and pained. It's a gorgeous track. Yeah, I guess I don't have too much to say about it musically. Read some of the lyrics here. We chase misprinted lies. We face the path of time, and yet I fight, and yet I fight. This battle all alone. No one to cry to, no place to call home. My gift of self is raped. My privacy is raked, and yet I find, repeating in my head, if I can't be my own, I'd feel better off dead. That's it. Maybe some commentary about how fame affected Lane Staley there, or it could just be very, simple commentary on just his life in general, regardless of how fame affected him. So we have this B9. Now let's see how it sounds. I'm gonna play that same progression again. I'm gonna play here's the way I just played it. Now, how does it sound? I'm going to add in the B7. I'm going to add in the 7th, the minor 7th, from the previous song, Poison Apple. Oops. Yeah, not the same emotion. Isn't that amazing how emotionally that just changes so drastically? It doesn't really work. it's too soulful. It's too kind of glowing with this kind of positive energy. At least on the piano, obviously, it sounds much more effective on electric guitar with that huge sound. But here's the way it is in Nutshell. It's very standard, very gorgeous. Kind of has like a how do I put this? Kind of has a vulnerability to it, and a lightness to it. But then when we change to when we add the 7th, which is in Poison Apple, it goes like this. A lot more confident. It sounds a lot more confident, kind of emotionally present. Just amazing how we have these two songs, the exact same chords, except minus the 7 from the B major, or I guess it would just be a B7 chord, is what you would call that. B7 with a 9 thrown in, which I'm playing as a 2 in the middle of the chord. Yeah, it just doesn't quite work. Does not fit the tone of this. Whereas compared to Poison Apple, we would just change this minor 7 chord to a major chord. And isn't this interesting? How we have these notes in the D sharp major chord, D sharp, G, and B flat. I can never remember which notes correspond to being called sharp or flat depending on the key. But those are the notes. D sharp, G, and A sharp. Or excuse me, yeah, that's for Poison Apple. But when we descend to the B7 chord, this G gets flatted to an F sharp / G flat. And you can hear that right here. It's right there. So in terms of key, I feel like you kind of have two conflicting ideas, but they work together so gorgeously. It's so powerful and confident. And back to Nutshell, which is this. Just gorgeous. All right, let's keep things moving along here. Track 3 is I Stay Away. Looking at the music here, we have some similar chords, but we're also going to be throwing in some chords that have not been present in this album yet. So, check it out. He was watching episode 2 of The Last of Us. Nice, nice. Did that just come out? Give me your review of it in the chat while we listen to I Stay Away. That is I Stay Away, Alice in Chains. I want to travel south this year. Gorgeous opening. It really, for me, brings to mind images of, well, kind of my home area, Pacific Northwest, big on a sunny day, which is a bit unusual, but big open blue sky, tall mountains Cascade Mountains off in the distance, looming over everything. Especially with his imagery of, I want to travel south this year. I won't prevent safe passage here. I won't prevent. So a double negative, saying that he will allow safe passage here. And also there's the idea of want to travel south this year, maybe an idea of migration, going somewhere warmer. Also the imagery of change just in general, but a big change. You know, moving and traveling. That's kind of a big change in someone's life. I want to travel south this year. I won't prevent safe passage here. I get crazy and person who came up with these chords for the chorus, they're just like, there are no chords here. No, that's completely wrong. You just were lazy. Beautiful progression. Kind of has like a little bit of like kind of that mythic classic rock epic like Led Zeppelin, what's the band, Rush kind of vibes. Just a little sprinkle of it. I think the way something Lane Staley, I don't know if it was Lane or Jerry who particularly wrote the lyrics for their music, but I think the way Lane's lyrics reflect the mood and the tone of Alice in Chains songs is so profound. It's so gorgeous. I want to travel south this year. I won't prevent safe passage here. And then verse 2, it's just a single line. Hey, yeah. Tears that soak the callous heart. Tears that soak the callous heart. Maybe ideas of like kind of a therapeutic release of energy. A therapeutic release of, you know, crying, letting things out. It's so lush and gorgeous and hopeful, which is so surprising considering what's come before. But then, of course, we get to the chorus, or I guess it's more of a pre-chorus, even though it repeats 3 times. Why you act crazy, not an act maybe. So close, a lady, shifty eyes, shady. Next pre-chorus. Why you act frightened, I am enlightened. Your weakness builds me, so someday you'll see. Why you act crazy, not an act maybe. So close, a lady, shifty eyes, shady. So I purely projection here. Just conjecture. What I'm analyzing and what I'm getting about from this is we have these 2 sides competing for control in the self. You have the first side that's very open and kind of feels very honest and very complete. You have a nice completion of the chord progression as well. We start on the C sharp major, we descend, and we gorgeously travel through and then land lower on the C sharp major again, but then that chorus. And then it's interesting, the way the song ends is with, or not ends, but there are two choruses that are a lot closer to the end of the song than the beginning. I stay away. Ba ba bum ba 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 da, da. I stay away. I think emotionally, it's kind of got an. It's really kind of in the middle of what the verse and the pre-chorus are presenting. The verse has this wonderful, hopeful, bright, like I get images of, like being outside in the daylight, in the sunlight with the trees and like a river going by. It just completes itself. It's full. It feels like a finished product. And then you have that chorus, which is just chromatic descent from starting at C sharp major, go up to the E major, D sharp major, D major, which is a very grunge thing to do, by the way. Put a bunch of major triads right all crammed close to each other chromatically. So you have these two progressions. The first, which is kind of fulfills an entire arc. And then the second, which is really goes against a lot of, standard music rules. Not that there are any like actual true standard music rules, but comparatively, compared to this chord progression, it just feels kind of incomplete and wandering and aggressive and kind of poisonous. And finally, of course, we end with the I stay, which is the first time we have an A major in the whole album so far. There haven't been any just pure A major triad chords yet. I stay away. Very interesting, just wonderful imagery. An imagery that's all competing so hard to kind of beat out the other. I feel like narratively and emotionally, that's kind of what this song captures. I want to travel south this year. I won't prevent safe passage here. Such wonderful, clear, unique lyrics. And the fact that the song opens with that is like the narrator is in a healthier headspace. He's feeling pretty good about himself. He's gonna make some good positive changes, but then that pre-chorus comes in. Why you act crazy? Not an act, maybe. So close, a lady. So maybe there's some potential imagery about, why you act crazy. Not an act, maybe. So contemplating your own mental health, your own emotional stability, contemplating whether you're in the right head. And I would imagine probably also this voice, this version of this narrator, is the one that's saying, no, don't travel south this year. Don't prevent safe passage here. Or, do prevent safe passage here. It's contradictory, and it's very aggressive, and I really get the idea of Lane's mental state. At least for me, it's very clear of, like, this song really presents the kind of the two sides. If every person has a dark side and a light side internally, I think this song does a really beautiful job of illustrating both of them competing for control of the self. So, beautiful, beautiful song. I think I would give this song another strong 4. I didn't give a rating to the other one, Nutshell. I think Nutshell I would also give a very strong 4. I love, love, love the verse in this so much. It's just so gorgeous. Don't love the chorus as much. That's purely personal. I think it's a wonderful illustration of just songwriting and contrasting emotional tones between a verse and a chorus. So really great. Next up, ooh, baby, this might be my favorite Alice in Chains song. It's definitely the one I get the most hyped for. The 2 times that I've seen Alice in Chains live. And that is going to be No Excuses. No Excuses, Alice in Chains, Jar of Flies. One of my absolute favorite Alice in Chains songs. So, we've got a G sharp, add 9, into a A sharp, add 4. So there's a half step in the middle of the chord, a half step, 2 notes, half step apart, which, I don't know, it's just a teeny bit dissonant, but at the same time, when it's preceded by the G sharp, add 9, I think because the G sharp add 9 also has the D sharp in it, right there, when we ascend to the A sharp add 4, it still fits because we're used to hearing that, the D sharp from the previous chord. Musically, maybe you could say something about the fact that this just very, very minor sense of dissonance in the middle of the chord is emotionally about a conflict internally in the narrator. It's all right, there comes a time, got no patience to search for peace of mind. Laying low, wanna take it slow, no more hiding or disguising truths I've sold. So this seems like it's a song about reconciliation, and following lyrically what we heard in the prior song, Stay Away, about want to travel south this year, prevent safe passage, and then the narrator conflicting with himself and fighting with himself, why you act crazy, not an act maybe. Here it's and musically and lyrically, everything is pushing forward this idea of kind of forward progress, I would say. Or at the very least, wanting forward progress and feeling like they need forward progress. And it's so positive, it's so bright. And this is like, as far as I can remember, this is the only song on the entire album, all 30 minutes of it, that is just very bright and powerful and invigorating and confident and inspiring the whole way through. Maybe one of the most positive songs they've ever done. But then the chorus, it's an F sharp 6. That's gonna be, ooh, that's nice. That has a very nice ring to it. Every day it's something hits me all so cold. Fall back down to the F sharp 6. Find me sitting by myself, no excuses. Then a surprise D sharp major. Whenever I picture this song in my mind, like, the imagery that comes to mind is kind of like a train moving along. It's loud and lumbering, but it's also powerful and confident. and it knows where it's going. It's on a track. It's on a dedicated track. Next lyrics. It's okay. Had a bad day. Hands are bruised from breaking rocks all day. We're talking about imagery of making progress, having a bad day, but it's okay because you're working through something. You're dedicating yourself to something. Drained and blue. I bleed for you. You think it's funny? Well, you're drowning in it too. So, there's an element of maybe an external character telling the narrator, look at you trying to put in the progress. Look at you trying to put in the work. What are you doing? And the narrator rebuttals, well, if you think it's funny, you're in this too. I recognize it. I see my pain in you as well. I know you're struggling as well. But yeah, I mean, very, very simple, straightforward song, emotionally, musically, lyrically. But when you compare it to everything that came before and all of the despair and the anger and just the heaviness of all of the prior 3 tracks, I just feel like no excuses. It's so uplifting, and it's so surprising how uplifting it is. Yeah, it's fine. Walk down the line. Leave our rain, a cold trade for warm sunshine. Ooh, God, I love that line. Leave our rain, a cold trade for warm sunshine. Again, he's talking about moving south. He's talking about this metaphor of moving south being progress, forward progression. You, my friend, I will defend. And if we change, well, I love you anyway. Oh my gosh, it makes me emotional. It's so beautiful and so thoughtful, so hopeful. And maybe you could argue that instead of it being an external character talking to the narrator, maybe it's actually, the idea of the duality, the internal duality of 2 sides fighting for control. And that these are, when he says, you, my friend, I will defend, and if we change, well, I love you anyway. He's talking about the 2 sides of himself. Just gorgeous, just gorgeous. What a beautiful, hopeful song. And next up on the album tracklist, we have Whale and Wasp, which is actually one that I am really not familiar with at all. I can't recall the last time I listened to this song, so let's jump into it, see how things go with Whale and Wasp off of Jar of Flies. We are celebrating the anniversary of its release. It came out on January 25th. The album came out on January 25th, 1994. Alice in Chains. This is Whale and Wasp. Don't Follow. Preceded by Whale and Wasp. I think these two really complement each other because we have what sounds like, narratively and emotionally, the continuation of the travel metaphor, being obviously one for change, self-change. Hey, I ain't never coming home. So now, throughout the narrative of this album, we have, I think, what has to be, I ain't never coming home. He has traveled south. He's gone south. He's followed through. Hey, I'll just wander my own road. Hey, I can't meet you here tomorrow. I really love the visual of I can't meet you here tomorrow. He's so, it isn't simply that he's leaving and changing, but also that there's forced growth. He's saying, I need to do this. I need to do this so much that my friends are saying, hey, let's meet tomorrow, let's hang out, let's talk about this, or something along those lines. But he's saying, no, I need to do this. Even against the wishes of the people that he loves in his home. Chorus, say goodbye, don't follow, misery so hollow. Now, is the misery itself hollow? Is the misery losing its power? The misery is being hollowed out by him traveling south? Or is it misery, comma, slash semicolon, so hollow? As in, I am miserable, I am so hollow. There's kind of 2 ways to read that. Verse 2, hey, you're living life full throttle. Hey, you, pass me down that bottle. Hey, you can't shake me round now. Now, is he talking to himself? This is probably the duality again, the 2 sides. Hey, you're living life full throttle, the life of a rock star. Pass me down that bottle, substance abuse, very typical for people who gain immense, immeasurable stardom and success in a very short amount of time. Hey, you can't shake me round now. Chorus, get so lost and don't know how. Yeah, it hurts to care, and I'm going down. It hurts to care, I'm going down. So maybe we have imagery of losing the battle. Of it could it could say I'm going down south, or I think more likely it's going down, I'm crashing. The bridge. This is where things really kind of get interesting. Forgot my woman, lost my friends, things I'd done and where I'd been. Sleep and sweat, the mirror's cold, see my face, it's growing old. Scared to death, no reason why. Do whatever to get me by. Think about the things I've said. Read the page, it's cold and dead. Take me home, take me home, take me home, take me home, take me home. And then the song ends, say goodbye, don't follow. So I'm kind of interpreting this as a progression of, it starts with the narrator committing to his change. He's moving south, he's going to travel, he's going to work on himself, and there's no follow through, or it's too difficult, or he just can't make it through. This bridge is really painful, man. Forgot my woman, lost my friends, things I'd done and where I'd been. Sleep in sweat, the mirror's cold, see my face, it's growing old. Scared to death, no reason why. That is really haunting imagery. Waking up in a cold sweat, looking yourself in the mirror, you don't recognize yourself, you see your life passing you by. You're scared to death and you don't know why. Horrible anxiety and depression, and you just can't shake it. Which is, of course, unfortunately, a very sad but earnest reflection of a lot of the grunge movement. A lot of the musicians who have now passed, and a lot of them died way too young. So yeah, just a very sad reflection. And I think kind of something that's really interesting is how the music is. It's actually very. It's kind of got a nice kind of country twang, folky vibe. And that chord right there, so we start on the C sharp major, C sharp over F, F sharp 6 again. The F sharp 6 is from No Excuses. And then this chord is very interesting, G sharp 7. It's kind of, G sharp 7, especially in this context, is kind of a turnaround chord. It's pretty cheesy. It's very warm. It's got that kind of country cheese to it in a good way. And the entire song really doesn't change that progression at all. There are a few sections where the chords, they kind of swap their place, or maybe you'll hold them for twice as long. But that's really it. It's just this entire repetition of. So I think maybe you could argue that the simplicity of the music, the fact that it's so set in stone and so static, could be interpreted as, on the emotional side of things, that the narrator has made up their mind, or that things are the way they're going to be, and that there's no changing it. And it's just such a sad, powerful contrast that you have this lovely, lovely chord progression. It's very sweet. A little bit melancholy, but then you throw in those harmonica solos. You throw in those beautiful and powerful, very grunge of the era vocal harmonies. Especially this chord, the G7 sharp, I just find it so warm and welcoming and positive. But the lyrics are it really seems to be the tale of a man who has lost himself, and he's tried everything. He feels he's tried everything he can. Or at least he had at least one big attempt, one strong push to really try to break through his troubles, and it seems like it's failed. So sad stuff there. Yeah. And that'll bring us to the end of the album. Another song that I'm not as familiar with. Can't remember the last time I listened to this. I don't even remember what it sounds like, but that is going to be track 7, Jar of Flies. Today we are celebrating the 29th, I believe, release day of this album. And let's bring it home. Swing on This, Alice in Chains. That is the full album, final track, Jar of Flies, Alice in Chains. His final song, Swing on This. I think Swing on This is maybe a double meaning here. You know, you could have swing on this, literally someone fighting or beating someone else, but also the there's a swing to the beat, the boom 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 boom. I feel like this is a very it's a very kind of sarcastic swingy jazz song. I think that really hinges on the lyric in the last verse, when in Rome. When in Rome, he's saying, you know, as long as we're here, let's take advantage of it. Whether that's good or bad, it's hard to say. I kind of get the impression this album, thematically and narratively, it's really ending on kind of a neutral note, a confused note. I mean, this song, especially when you compare it to the rest of the entirety of Alice in Chains' discography, it kind of feels like a throwaway track. It's so weird and out of left field for their stylings, but I think it really captures maybe what the band members, or specifically Lane Staley, were going through mentally at the time. Mother said, come home. Remember, so he's traveled. He's gone south. Mother said, come home. Father said, come home. Sisters said, come home. So my friends said, come home. Let me be. I'm all right. Can't you see? I'm just fine. Little skinny. Okay? I'm asleep anyway. So again, I think this is really backing up the idea of, and you know, maybe from the beginning, maybe gone south actually meant, as opposed to getting better, maybe gone south means, you know, things have gone south, the figure of speech. It could be interpreted as, I want to travel south this year. I want to get worse. I want to embrace this dive I'm on and just kind of commit to things being painful and bad. Could be interpreted that way. But I think musically, when we're first introduced to that idea in I Stay Away, I want to travel south this year, musically it's so gorgeous and confident and bright and lovely that I think it was, I interpret it as want to travel south this year. And that's really kind of been thematically the image that's carried this whole album emotionally and narratively, is I want to travel south this year. Now he's gone south. Things didn't go well because he's waking up in a cold sweat. He's looking in the mirror. He's seeing his life passing by. He's scared to death. His family, he's listening very specifically. Mother said, come home. Father said, come home. Sister said, come home. My friend said, come home. I said, let me be. I'm all right. So maybe in this context, going south did in fact mean things have gone south, the figure of speech. Verse 2, then I heard a voice said, son, you have a choice. And then I slapped my face. And I think the fact that he said so I don't think this is literally his father talking. I think this is either like a Jesus or a God metaphor, that he's found faith or he's trying to find faith. I heard a voice out of nowhere. It implies that it's coming from out of nowhere, because previously in verse 1, he specified that his mother is talking, his father is talking, his sister is talking, and his friends are talking. So in verse 2, when he says, I heard a voice with a nondescript voice, I think it's coming at him as, you know, as kind of like a come to Jesus moment. He said, the voice said, son, you have a choice. You know, my son, everyone, humans are all, people are all the son of God, that type of thing. We are all the children of God. Then I slapped my face, which is, wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. What are you doing? But then it goes back to the chorus again. Let me be. I'm okay. I'm awake anyway. So in the previous chorus, he said, I'm asleep anyway. It's too bright over there. See, that's an interesting one. I think he's backs up the idea of he's migrated. He's gone south, maybe to California. I'm basing this on the fact that Alice in Chains are from Seattle. So he went down south. He went to California. Whether it was for good purposes or bad, not quite clear. But either way, it was too bright. It was too much for him. Maybe it was too wholesome, and he couldn't handle the change and the emotional dissonance that he experienced. Continuing on with chorus 2, I can shift, cannot steer, so I drive them away. For a while, then I stay. Little skinny, okay, I'm awake anyway. So still got the little skinny. And I think that's probably a reference to losing your health and losing out to drug addiction and substance abuse. Only in the first chorus, he said, I'm asleep, which has certainly very specific imagery to it. And now he's saying, I'm awake. But maybe things haven't really changed, because the verse after that is, now I have to go home. Do as when in Rome. So he's going back home. He's returning up north where things are darker and colder. And when in Rome could very well be an embrace of his affliction and an embrace of his destructive emotional state, his self-destruction. And then we get the chorus repeats again, same lyrics. So yeah, very, very interesting. Lovely, amazing album. For sure. You can see why it's a classic, why it premiered on #1 on the Billboard Top 200 when it came out. I definitely think musically, once you get past No Excuses, it's not that things get bad by any means. I think Don't Follow is a beautiful piece of music, but it's, it's very simple. Feels like it was kind of maybe thrown together. Lyrically, though, I wouldn't say that, but musically. And then Swing on This, it's just so bizarre. It's so weird. It's so unlike any other Alice in Chains songs that I just kind of get this imagery of things just kind of being like a fuck it attitude when in Rome, but not really in a positive light, especially considering the optics we have today looking back on the entire grunge movement, Alice in Chains, Lynn Staley, rest in peace, and how his life progressed. So yeah, that is going to be Jar of Flies, my full analysis of that album, celebrating its 29th release anniversary today. And I'm going to try to upload this to YouTube, so if that works and I didn't get any copyright strikes, then thank you all for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like me to review any other albums and the emotional or narrative resonance of those other tracks, please do type them in the comments below. But I'm going to keep streaming tonight for those on Twitch. But that'll do it for the YouTube video and a full analysis of Jar of Flies. Thank you. Alice in Chains. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hello there.
Hello there, DKR Patty.